Team, great to get together back in the virtual room. And yes, if you have capability to put your camera on, please do so. It's always nice to see smiles and so forth, especially in this virtual setting. We've got a great little lineup for you today. We've got an esteemed guest speaker who I'm personally are really looking forward to hearing some stories come together. We've got, well, obviously you hear from Mario as the chair opening up and a little bit of a recap from last time around. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the buddy program that we discussed last session around and see how things have progressed for you and where we're sitting right now. So to start us off right now, we might pass across to our chair, Mario, just to open up the session for us, if you will.
Excellent. Thank you, Glenn. A very good evening to our guests from Europe and America, and a good afternoon to our FCSI members in the Asia Pacific division. I have been an FCSI member for many years, and our motto of share, support, and inspire is actually printed on my business card. And I must say that during these COVID times, this motto has never been more relevant. In fact, our last two sessions that we had on share and support have resulted in some amazing positive feedback and some real energy among our FCSI members. I know we've all been exposed to Zoom meetings and team meetings and other webinars and technical matters, but I'm proud and really happy that our FCSI one is focused on on our personal and our professional lives, and this particular one, especially during this global pandemic time that is continuing to impact us in different ways around the world. I feel this one on Inspire couldn't come at a more relevant time. Thank you to all those who have sent in questions over the last couple of weeks. Just getting us thinking about this webinar and developing this webinar with Glenn. And one of the ones I want to acknowledge in particular was an interesting one from one of our new, well, he's not a new member, he was an ex-member, Francis Logren from Future Foods in Melbourne. He sent us this very thought-provoking question, and he said, what are the 5 key challenges that would face any new member in their business or in their portfolio or generating new business? And I thought, what a great question. So I feel that through our session today on Inspire, there would be some insights that will help us in facing those challenges, both in our business and personal lives. And then if there's things that are not covered there, I'm sure we'll cover it in a future webinar. So once again, a very warm welcome for all of you. Thank you again, as Glenn said, for taking the time. And just remember, the more you get engaged in our session, the more you'll get out of it. So over to you, Glenn, our very own inspiring and motivational alchemist. Take it away.
Thank you, Mario. So inspiration, great topic for today. And as Mario said, can be quite timely for where we're all at, I guess, in our work lives, in our personal lives, with our family, and knowing that things, even since we started these webinars, are just altering with, COVID and the ongoing impacts, especially in food service and hospitality around the world. What is inspiration? It's very subjective. Different things inspire different people at different times. Inspiration is, to me, it's a verb. It's a doing word. It's about an action. It's about filling someone with an urge to do something, do or feel something. So it's highly emotive, quite powerful, and can absolutely be world changing. Thought I'd share with you a little story, and I've got something here that inspires me today. So this lovely little bonsai that I've been working on for a couple of years is, on the surface, pretty simple, quite beautiful, I think. And why this inspires me is I really love the aesthetics. So when I started getting into bonsai, I joined a club, and I took along a little tree, and I went and sat in with the club members, and there were a lot of learned people in the room that have been doing it for many decades. And as the senior members gathered around my little bonsai tree, they said, Glenn, if you trim it here and trim it there, maybe wire and bend this branch out and fertilize it well, in about 20 years, you're going to have a really good bonsai. Me being a bit more young and impatient, I said, that's all well and good, but what can I do in the next 1 hour? That's what the workshop is. That's what we want to do. So on the surface value, I wanted to create something that was aesthetically pleasing. But now that I'm about 5 or 6 years into my bonsai journey, what I find I really love about it is it connects me with nature. The aesthetics are really important. But what I've worked out is that my dad used to do this when he was a younger man. And so I've been watching him over the years. So there's kind of that little family connection and that legacy there. It's artistic. If you do bonsai, they talk a lot about the flow of the energy in the tree. That to me sounds quite zen and pretty cool, but it's really thinking about your seasons. It connects me with as the seasons come and go, because you can't rush the bonsai. And a little saying I came across that I love, I wanted to share with you. In nature, nothing is rushed, yet all is achieved. It also teaches me patience. And I think that I have a lot of energy and I don't do a lot to meditate or to slow down. So it's something that I find quite meditative, because if you rush, you might break the tree and it's very hard to grow it back and you can't glue it back on. So these things take time. So whilst on surface value, what inspires me is just the visual. But as I break it down, there's a lot of layers going on behind it that resonate really well for me as an individual, for a craft that I like and that I choose to invest time in. So for any of us, at any stage in our lives, there's the ability to reflect on what, or sometimes who, inspires us the most, and break down that thought process on why is it that I like this? It could be as simple as cooking a meal or sharing it with loved ones, but there can be a lot behind it. This inspiration can spur you into action, or it could be something as simple as just slowing down and acknowledging that you're happy at the current moment. As humans, genetically, we're hardwired to hack inspiration. So what I mean by that is we've got this great chemical or chemicals floating around in our body, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, that once we work out how we get those, we can actually fabricate a circumstance so we get more of it. Oxytocin is great if you're a hugger. If you love to give someone a hug, doesn't matter if it's grandkids, a friend, could be the dog, doesn't really matter. But just that human connection can give you a little boost that is inspiring. So you can hack that at any time. I'm feeling a little bit flat. Let me just get in touch with a friend or go and visit someone that I can just reach out and connect with. Dopamine manages your mood. So it's really thinking about, is it music that I'm putting on? Could be a nice glass of wine. Could just be calling someone for a good old fashioned bitch session about having a hard time. That's fine as well. We're connecting, having a bit of a laugh, but even that just resonates, release some dopamine, which makes you feel better. Serotonin, key to happiness. So there's so many different ways, that could be through your diet or going to the gym, going for a run, could be just setting a goal or a tick list, and just physically the act of ticking boxes releases chemical in your mind to make you feel like you're achieving and motivating. And that's what I mean by, as humans, we're hardwired genetically to deal with this. Getting a massage, just another fantastic way to feel good about yourself. So a deceptively simple, but I find very, very powerful tool that I use, and I use with my clients, is keeping a gratitude journal. So really simple little number that I write down each day, 3 things that I'm grateful for during that day. Could be as simple as the sun came up this morning, because it's been raining the last couple of days and it's lovely to see the sun. I'm grateful for that. Could be something I'm looking forward to. Could be something that maybe one of my sons did quite well at school, something like that. And I'll put it down and just take a little bit of gratitude. And what that does there, it switches on a cognitive bias. All right. So again, back to hacking things. So suddenly you start noticing things that you're grateful for. And that's very easy to habitualize, right? So 3 times a day. And I don't beat myself up. If I miss a day, it's okay. I'll do it the next day. But keeping this gratitude journal, which I've been doing for a number of years, helps to hardwire my mind to look for things that I'm grateful for through the day subconsciously. It's kind of like when you're going to buy a car or you buy a new car and, you know, let's say you buy, I don't know, could be a red 4-wheel drive. And all of a sudden you look around and everyone's driving red 4-wheel drives. You're like, I thought no one had this car, but now that I'm hardwired in, my cognitive bias is dialed up. So I'm seeing them everywhere. So the mind works in the same way. And that's why I like keeping a little gratitude journal, because it keeps me focused. It keeps me with a tempo and a frequency. So they're just a couple of little things that inspiration means to me, and a few little things or tools that I use to keep myself inspired. Now, we've got an amazing, inspiring speaker coming up, but just before we hear from him, what I'd like you to do, just in the next minute or so, is just write down something that inspires you, because we're going to talk about that in a few minutes' time, and I'd love to have a couple of notes. So just a word or two. I'll put on a little think music. Okay, and just coming back to the virtual room there, guys. Hope you liked a little bit of that Zen guitar. Thought I'd keep it on theme with the bonsai. So hopefully you've written something down there, and we're going to talk amongst each other in the breakout rooms that Andrew's got organized for us in about 20 minutes or so. But right now, actually, just before we do that, everyone just give me a thumbs up if you're on camera, or just pop in the chat box. Did you write one thing down? Just a yes or no? Getting some thumbs up there. Fantastic. Nice. Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Courtney. Good. Good. Looking forward to hearing from a few of you there. Now, our guest speaker tonight. Very, very excited to hear a bit more detail from this gentleman. So by way of background, okay, Bill Caruso. He's the current chair of FCSI Worldwide Board of Directors, the only 2-term worldwide president and chair in the history of the society, inducted into the Society's Council of Fellows in 1984, which is the highest honor that FCSI can bestow upon its members. He's also the chair of the Americas Division, TAD, and currently sits on the TAD Board of Directors. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Hotel and Restaurant Administration from Cornell University in New York, has an MBA in International Business from the University of Colorado, has completed over 9,000 projects in 44 countries, and has over 50 years experience as a professional food service consultant. And on top of all that, he's just a heck of a nice guy. Mario, did I miss anything there?
I'm gonna say it's amazing. You're reading all these academic and other things of Bill, but you know what? I'm just gobsmacked listening to it, because you know he is such a down-to-earth person, and he has inspired me, to be honest, in my journey in FCSI, and not through all that his MBA and everything that he's done, and I've probably done myself over the years, but just with his down-to-earth approach and a very human approach to everything he says and does. And so I'm really grateful that we've selected him to be our keynote speaker, and I'm sure everyone will benefit from that. So thank you, Bill.
Excellent, excellent. So team, what we might do is just unmute for a second. Let's just give him a round of applause, because if we were together, that's what we'd do, right? Ladies and gentlemen, taking the floor, the virtual floor, Bill Caruso.
Thank you all. I'm really honored to address the group tonight. It's been a long road, as Glenn said, it's a 50-year journey, and it seems like yesterday. And, you know, when I look at the society, a great many of my friends worldwide, including many in the APD division, were born out of this relationship that I've had over all these years. And there's been a lot of inspiration, some of which I'll talk about tonight. But it's a great pleasure to see many friends on board tonight, and both new and old friends. So I'm pleased to be here, and I know our executive administrator, Nick Ficcaro's on the call, the Zoom as well. And I think I can speak for him too. We're very pleased to be able to be here tonight.
Excellent. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Bill. So Bill, can you share with us as a group then, is there a particular event that comes to mind that has most inspired you on your journey?
Well, you know, there's a couple things. That's a great question, and it's a little bit complex. I think that at a young age, when I had a teacher say to me, "Oh, I don't think that you're going to go really anywhere in terms of education or whatever," and I sat back and thought about that, and then I worked very hard, and I was inspired by that, so to speak, to say, I'm going to do better, and I'm going to, you know, reach a goal that I wanted to reach. And ultimately, I tried 2 or 3 times to no avail. But finally, I think the administrators finally felt sorry for me. But I got accepted to Cornell University, which is world renowned in the hospitality educational field, the School of Hotel and Restaurant Management, 1922. We're having our 100-year anniversary. And this school was started well before any hospitality programs in the whole world. Many of my friends who are alums are worldwide. So that was a great inspiration, that teacher who said, you'll never do this, you'll never aspire to any great things. And I always remembered that in later years. And then, you know, I think that one other point, in 1985, I left a firm that I was a partner in, and literally I bought an old desk, I put it in the basement of my house, and I tell this story to many people, but I know I'll see a lot of smiles here when I tell this story very briefly. And, you know, for 3 months, no work came in. And I was on the phone, and I got very discouraged, and I said to my wife, we had 2 small children, and I said, you know, if we don't get a job in a couple weeks, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to look for some other work, and we may have to move, because I was down to eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the whole family. I had nothing in the bank, no savings, nothing. And the phone rang one day, and I picked up the phone, and it was an old architectural friend of mine who represented a client in Boston, Massachusetts. And the client was the Boston Red Sox professional baseball team. And the project was Fenway Park, but I didn't know it. He said, I can't tell you what it is, but I need you to get on a plane and get to Boston and interview for this big project. And I didn't have any money, so I couldn't get an airplane ticket, but I scraped up some mileage and I got an airline ticket. And then I didn't have any money to get a hotel room. And I called an old Cornell friend of mine, hotel school, who managed the Harvard Club in Cambridge. And he says, I don't have a room, but I've got a boiler room. You can sleep in the boiler room on a cot next to the boiler, because it was in the winter. And then I went, and every last penny I had, I brought, and I said to myself, I have to be successful and get this project. I have to be. Otherwise, there is no tomorrow for me. Long story short, and I played baseball in college, so I could talk the language. And when I met with the front office, most of whom were former players for the Red Sox and others, I talked the language, got the job, and 163 stadiums and arenas later throughout the world, here we are today. So that's a story about never give up, Never give up. Don't ever give up.
Bill, I love that. I love that story. And even as you started and said, you know, you got into Cornell University because there was a teacher that told you you couldn't do this, you will never amount to it. You know, almost you're not worthy. And sometimes we find motivation in people telling us what we can't do. It's not always a positive thing, but it's the catalyst to take some action.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, go on.
Bill, yeah, I was just curious. So painting the picture there, and you did it so well. You're pretty much down and out with no money, no accommodation, pitching for a high net worth client. And just like, do you remember how you were feeling? Because sometimes, you know, I've seen people come in and if they smell of desperation, it's not a good sales pitch. You know, so how did you overcome that?
Well, I was quite confident, and a key lesson here is be proud, be confident, think big, and again, never give up. And being that I felt in my mind certainly a lot of experience by then in the business, but also in this very unusual business type, which was professional baseball. Since I had played the game and I talked the game, there's certain lingo. And between the architectural contact that I had, and after my meeting with the front office executives, one of whom was a Hall of Fame former player, catcher, I felt very confident that when I sat down and started talking to him, the words just flowed. The attitude, the feeling, so much so that we became lifelong friends after I got the job, because he knew what I was saying. He knew what he wanted, and he thought that not only was I suited for the job, but also he thought my knowledge of the game and the facilities that were in question, were certainly right on for my style.
Yeah, and definitely having had a little bit of baseball knowledge, that rapport that you would have recreated as you sort of sat down, I think carries a lot of volume. And I think for a lot of people in business, the ability to build that rapport will just get you so much further than just going in and saying, you know, here's the figures and this is the detail. Yeah. It's that human connection, I think, is really important.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
So Bill, that was for some early days and a great story there. What about currently? You know, where do you draw inspiration from at the current time?
Well, I draw it from my staff. My staff has been with me a long, long time, and we've gone through thick and thin together. And I sit and marvel at their tenacity and their willingness to do anything that's required. And I try to inspire them by saying, you know, if I won't do it, then you shouldn't do it. I believe very strongly in walking the walk and talking the talk. And I always have felt that way. And I try to mentor, and I've seen so many advancements from the young people and the willingness to really do what's necessary. And I try to inspire them much like a university professor, where I don't sit there every day and talk to them about what they have to do and why, but I do give them a synopsis of what's required and when. And I always say the door is open, and I try to inspire them in that way. I mentor them. I truly try to mentor. And that is really one of the real things that I've loved to do over all these years. That's not only including my staff, but many, many FCSI members who've been brought into the fold. I enjoy talking to, explaining, and literally trying to advance their careers. And, you know, here's an interesting point. The inspiration part of back in the 70s, when I joined the society in 1974, so it's just about 50 years. There's an interesting fact, and that fact was really the issue where many people did not share information in those days. There was a very competitive feeling that you really shouldn't share, whether that was letting people know, others know who young people on your staff were because they were afraid they'd get stolen. Maybe you're going to give out a certain type of formula or a key issue that might detract from your competitive position. I never felt that way. I always freely gave of information, trying to inspire other young consultants and firms. And, you know, the bottom line is we all became better friends. We all worked together over the years and we collaborated. And now in this world today, none of that seems to exist. It's a pure collaboration worldwide. It's not divisional, it's worldwide. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm sure all of you agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bill, it's a lovely point you say there, that thought process of being fearful about what you might lose. Well, if you're so busy focused on what you might lose, you're discounting everything that you could gain from giving freely and sharing the knowledge. And great organizations do. They share and they support and they inspire each other. So you get a more momentum.
Yep. The motto certainly rings true with the story I just told.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill, question for you. So I know from what I've read now that you've stepped away from the business and now your son is in the hot seat.
My son-in-law.
Yeah, son-in-law, sorry. So tell me,
that's correct.
Thought process for you to be stepping away, was that easy to make? Did you know, hey, this is it, it's time? Or was it something you've been toying with for a while about what the next evolution of your business looks like?
Well, it was something that I've thought about for a long while. However, it didn't materialize until maybe the last couple years of me working in the practice. And it was something that I've thought about a great deal, and I was very hesitant and worried about leaving the full-time consulting field after so many years. But all of a sudden, one day I woke up, and as we all have heard the saying, the light bulb went on, and I said, you know something, since I was still in good health and in my 70s, I wanted to live out the last few years. We say in American football, I'm in the fourth quarter of the game. And as rugby, I think it's the second half or on the match. But the point is, while I still had good health, I knew as long as I two partners would take the firm over, that it was in good hands, and I was always available to help, and they know that, and the lifeline is always there. So I felt it was good timing to say sayonara and and call me if you have any questions type thing.
Yeah, no, well played. In Australian rules football, in AFL, it's a 4-quarter game, and we say the third quarter is the setup, the premiership quarter, but the fourth quarter, you're carrying it over the line. So we can definitely resonate with that.
That's right. Anyway, being the worldwide president has kept me very busy, even after I left the practice. So Nick's probably smiling over there saying, yeah, Bill bothers me almost every day. So that's good. He's keeping me really busy,
Excellent. And Bill, is there someone through your journey that you think about that inspired you? I know you mentioned the teacher early in your career, but is there someone in the later part of the career there that either maybe mentored you or challenged you to go the next level?
Well, it's a bit of personal and business here. That's a great question. I go way back to the 50s. And my dad and his two brothers, I grew up in New Jersey, maybe the state of New Jersey, maybe 30 miles from New York City, Manhattan. And they were one of the first, they were an immigrant family. They had hard times coming over as first generation from Europe. And they worked very, very hard. And I can remember my two uncles were in the retail food and grocery business, meat and groceries. And my dad was in the restaurant business. and they worked hard day and night. And I worked with them at a very early age. And there's no question that their edict was, you work hard, you be professional, only give 5-star service and quality. And I underline that for everybody listening in. If you're going to do it right. Do it professionally and give the quality service that a client deserves. And with that, folks, with that, I never worried about price competitiveness. I always told clients, we're not the cheapest, but we're the best we can be. And they taught me that. But the other person, and I have to mention him because he was a mentor. And by the way, the interesting thing is I work for 3 individuals whose names are almost lost in the annals of the society. But these were the guys who brought 2 food service consulting societies together in the 70s. The International Society of Hospitality Consulting, which was chaired by a fellow by the name of Fred Schmid. I'm sorry, not Fred Schmid, Richard Flambert out of San Francisco. The Food Facilities Engineering Society, FFES, was chaired by a fellow by the name of Fred Schmid of Los Angeles. And the third fellow out of Canada, Keith Little. I worked for all 3, which is very unusual. And they were mentors, but the real mentor for me was the son of Keith Little, a fellow by the name of Jim Little. And people in Australia and in China know the name, Hong Kong, know the name Jim Little. He later, in those days, he owned a firm by the name of Harley Little Associates in Canada. It became Sini Little Associates, but worldwide. And Jim first said to me, Bill, if you're going to do it the right way. Think big, don't think small. Don't think we're going to do a 1/4-inch connection, a cold water connection. It's much bigger than this. And literally, I credit Jim as my mentor. He put me on big jobs when I was 20-some years old, World's Fairs in Brisbane in '88, the Montreal Olympics in '74, 76, and he didn't look back. And I credit Jim as being my mentor. When he passed about 4 years ago, I went to California and spoke at his service. And I looked at everybody there, many old friends, and I said, Jim was the ultimate teacher, and he taught many of the early Australian and Asia Pacific consultants what our business is and was.
Bill, thank you for sharing that and beautiful personal stories there too. And I'm sure Jim was a great man. And the ability for a mentor to not only guide young people, but also open doors, I think is really important. And it's sort of, as you said earlier, it's about not having that fear mentality of, oh, hang on, I could lose something here. It's actually just opening it up and saying it's all here for you if you want. And I love what you said there about only give 5-star service and quality. Bill, the last question I've got for you there, and it might be a little takeaway or a summation here for our attendees, is what advice would you give for our attendees here today to keep them inspired for the road ahead?
Okay, yeah, there's a few key points here as well. I talked before about never give up, don't give up, don't ever give up. That's number one. Second, don't be timid in business. Don't be timid. Trust your first instinct, your gut reaction, and make sound but timely and strategic business decisions, but make them in a timely manner. That's the key. Also, do what turns you on, and be absolutely the best you can be when you're going to do it. I mean, there's no question that if you're happy at what you're doing, and if there's a segment of the consulting business you really love, learn everything you can, be a sponge, get into it, and it shows. It ultimately shows in your whole demeanor and the quality level that you're providing to your clients. Again, I stress, only give quality and service. Price, folks, is secondary. It's not a major client issue if a client looks at you and says, boy, look at Andrew here in Australia. He's the best that he can be, and I'm confident in him. Look at Mario, and look at all the rest of you. They're the best you can be. I'm going to hire them. And yeah, sure, money's always a problem, a little bit of a problem, but believe me, if a client sees your net worth, money's not a problem. I never found that. Lastly, be true to yourself and the profession. Be professional and highly ethical in all you do. I stress that ever since day one that I became a member of the society. Be ethical and professional in all you do, and you'll be proud when the curtain finally closes on your career. You'll be proud that you did it your way. Remember the song by Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
I Did It My Way? I want you to remember that song, I Did It My Way. Always remember that. And I did it my way.
Bill, I feel we're just scratching the surface there on an illustrious career, but that snapshot was very insightful. Thank you for sharing that with us. And some of those points there about never giving up and make small decisions, but in a timely fashion, being true to yourself and do what lights you up or turns you on. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you
all. Thank you all. I've enjoyed being with you, and brings back a lot of old memories of a lot of time spent in the APD area. And I've loved every minute of it over all these years. Some great, great, great friends in your division.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So team, we've heard from Bill, there, and I hope you're feeling a little bit inspired and wrote down some notes yourselves. We're going to go into a small breakout now. Andrew's going to flip us into rooms. We're going to go for about 8 minutes or so. And what we'd like everyone to do, everyone needs to contribute and just talk about what personally or professionally inspires you. This is all about you. So take your minute or so and just share with the group. And then we'll come back together, and Mario, Andrew, and I will, bring these little parts of the puzzle together. So share freely. So it was good conversation in our room there. I might pass across to Mario. Mario, what was the conversation? Just a quick little summation from some of the team there. What inspires them?
Very interesting. There was one common thread. That flowed through with all in the room, and that was very interesting. It's all about the focus on getting client appreciation for what we do. What motivates us and what inspires us is to get our clients or whoever we come in touch with to be in a better place from before they engage us, so we can get them a better outcome. And in doing that, we not only get a client and we get paid for it, we actually also make friends along the way. And one important thing is not one of us in all of the sharing talked about all this stuff, but the fact about making money or charging fees or money didn't come up at all. It wasn't part of the conversation, or money was never ever mentioned, which is very interesting.
Excellent. Thanks, Mario. And what about Andrew? What about yourself? What was a couple of the themes or conversations that were had?
Yeah, along the same lines, I think Ian actually raised the fact that, sometimes getting feedback when, the entire business relies on you, and raised an example from early on where he was actually credited for some really good successes of the business. Meanwhile, Brian, solely family orientated, and that's his number one aim, ambition and goal, is to provide for the family.
Nice. And a little bit of, like, I think when Bill told the story about going to the Red Sox there, where it's kind of like a make or break moment, sometimes when we're right up against the wall, there's nowhere to go but forward. That is it. There's no options. And that can at times bring out our best. Thanks, Andrew. And just a couple of things from the group I was with, there was around, being inspired by strength from others, in particular family members gone through some struggles with health and so forth. innovation, traveling and being inspired by things that we see in the marketplace, and new ideas and new concepts and the little things that make a big difference. And Julian, great contribution there about, never give 95%, always put the extra 5% in. So it's 100% all in type equation. So I love that. I love that from him. Great sharing, everyone across the board. And, I was just putting in the chat box a couple of little things, because as you can see, inspiration is subjective. It comes from everywhere, but together we can inspire each other, and we can steal with pride from each other and go, hey, I never really thought about that. I can take inspiration from that as well. That's the nature of our sharing.
Glenn, also, if I may, the thing is what I just shared, and just from what you guys shared as well, sometimes it's just also the very simple things like Anna shared about just nature inspiring her, just being out in nature is inspiring. And Courtney said just travel. So, it doesn't have to be, something extraordinary that inspires you. Sometimes the ordinary can inspire to be extraordinary, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mario. Andrew, we're going to spend a few minutes just talking about the buddy program.
Yeah, mate.
If you just want to take the floor, please.
Yeah, sure. A program that we've introduced, and most people in the call today will have already known a little bit about it. But just to elaborate for those who don't, to be able to connect, and in the absence of previously being able to get on the phone and call up another mate or somebody else within the industry, we took the liberty to group certain people and then say, all right, let's see if getting together and putting people together in the same room, whether it's by phone or by Zoom or Teams meetings, just to connect, see if there's any way to share or support each other. The list on the screen at the moment is what we initially put together. And so as people continue to commit and say, yeah, I want to be part of that, this is an initiative to try and help, whether it's consultants, country to country get together, or allied members meet up with other consultants or other people that may not necessarily knock on their front door. In this case here, it's just that little attempt to bring people together. My buddy was Cho Seng, and we'd had a couple of sessions where, initially, I don't really know, didn't know much about him or his background, but in the time that we spent on our first meeting, learn a bit more about him, what his passions are, what he enjoys doing in his downtime. And our second meeting, it was almost like you couldn't stop us. We were just constantly talking about industry things, personal things, Revit, and developing. He's product-based, we're obviously consultants. So there's a little bit of touching on the professional side of things, where we connect in our personal lives, and also completely separately to our experience. Francis has already brought up a really good initiative where we bring together management consultants and design consultants as a connection as well. So the buddy system, while initially to group people together just as a point of connection and expanding within the association, is now looking at the potential at pairing professionals together that might have similar benefits as far as projects and expertise to share. One of the groups was obviously Larry and Courtney from our office getting together. I talk to Courtney all the time, and she shares with me the conversations that she has with Larry. But Larry, if you want to, do you want to share a little bit of how it's worked with you and how things are going up in Queensland and connecting with your buddy here in Melbourne?
Am I back through? Okay.
Yep.
I found it quite interesting from very different angles. First up, it was great to actually see and talk to young talent coming through, because one of my biggest bitches in the last 10 years, I couldn't see any good young people coming through. And that's because I wasn't talking to them. Surprise, surprise. So it's just good to see young people starting on their journey, aspiring to do bigger and better things. I as I said, I get a big buzz out of watching young people come through, whether it's in our industry or it's family members or whatever. Passing on your knowledge that you've gained from all the mistakes you've made over the years to someone so that hopefully they don't make them is awesome.
Yeah.
But probably the biggest thing it's done for me is it's creating industry. We have an organization that has been known as a bunch of stuffed shirts for many years and not doing anything, right? That's changed. Now we're doing these conferences, we're doing these buddy systems. We actually are creating a real community, not just to talk about community, it's real. And I think the industry will be better off for it. We actually are starting to have an industry, and that's a result of what our guys like yourself, Andrew, have been doing.
Yeah, I think that's important too, Larry, because there's things that obviously you and I have shared, and if it wasn't for the association and the FCSI, we probably would have crossed paths. There, while different people's names come up in conversation, it's different when you actually have had a connection with somebody. To have heard somebody's name in conversation, or heard, okay, well, Ian Hopper won this project, or Larry got that job, or Brian's working on this. It's more about, in those cases there, it's more industry talk, and especially if when we know each other and we've had open and honest conversations, it also helps support each other and defend those if someone says something out of line about another member. I can either call Brian straight away and say, did you know anything about this? Or I'll call Mario and say, or I'll be able to confront him directly and ask him that question. The same with yourself. So in that sense, I think while we do open ourselves up to a little bit of vulnerability, as Bill was saying earlier, when you stop worrying about what you're going to lose and think about what you're going to gain, there are those things that between us, if we're connecting and genuinely not, trying to promote ourselves, we end up learning more about each other, learning more about ourselves, and the opportunities then just open up.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I've been doing this for some time now, and basically I'm off my office on my own, right? And the industry's out there, but there isn't an actual industry as such. It's just, as you're saying, it's talk. People, industry talk, but we are not a body of people that we can bounce off of. That's changing, right? And that's a result of what's happening here in the last 18 months.
Well, I think that changes with trust too. So you build a little bit of a rapport, and then within that rapport, you develop trust. And this is what we're hoping that with the buddy system, we can, it's not just what's written on the screen here. We can, as far as we're concerned, Wayne, if you wanted to catch up with Bill, then we can put you guys in contact with each other. Ben can catch up with Vasco. Carlton can.
Yep.
We talk to him all the time, basically every couple of weeks anyway. But
yeah, just coming back to the younger generation coming through.
yeah,
I do get encouraged by that. And Courtney, I mean, I really do hope you have a great future in this industry. You know, it can be very rewarding, personally and financially. Just changing outcomes is phenomenal.
And I think what you say there too, Larry, is, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself, learn to fill the gaps with that information that you may not know. We don't know everything. Not all consultants know everything, but to be able to confidently represent your business in front of the client, it's about gathering those little bits of information. As Bill was saying, if when you're speaking the language of the person that you're in front of, and you're acknowledging them and listening, then we've got a lot to learn from everybody. I reckon Courtney's great working for us.
Well, I've learned over the years to be able to talk with a kitchen hand at his level, and then come out and walk into a boardroom and do it at their level. Everywhere in between. Don't disrespect people. You never know how that may end up. You know, everyone's in the job because the job's important. Otherwise, they wouldn't be paying them. You know? So you got to give them all due respect. And I've learned some of the best things, little tricks I've learned from people doing their job, uneducated kitchen hands.
Yeah.
They have worked out the best way to do something because they got to do it every day, right? So don't ignore those people. You know, that they hold an important part. Every kitchen will come to a close if you pull the kitchen hands out. It's a critical piece of personnel. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's anybody who wants to be included in the buddy program that isn't already, or all you have to do is basically reach out. You don't necessarily need permission to contact anybody from us, but what we're trying to do is just give that little bit of a kickstart in the process.
Awesome. Yeah, great point there, Andrew. I mean, look, as Andrew says, we don't need permission, but what we're just trying to do as an organization is pave the way and make it easy for you as a collective. If there's things that are roadblocking for you, it can be time differences, no problem. How can we structure it? Or is it, it needs to be a little bit more structured in terms of a specific time frame where we get a few people together in the virtual room, because there is massive power in sharing your collective intelligence, massive power. Fortunately, we have this great forum already where we're rolling on and we get a chance to get together and chat virtually, and hopefully we get face-to-face in September. So excellent. Andrew, thank you. Andrew, thank you very much for running that segment there. Team, I really appreciate you coming together, and I'm conscious of your time and the investment you've made to be with us today, especially for our friends in the US that are now kicking into the wee hours of the morning. Mario, we might bring it together there now. Would you like to just start of a little bit of a summation for a couple of key points that you took?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Glenn. And thank you to everyone for joining in. I think there are three key ones that I took from today's session. The first one was, it's a simple thing. You just awareness of that we're humans, our bodies, and at the end of the day, whatever we do is for satisfaction, to make ourselves happy, to make our lives a better place, our lives better. And like you talked about, that just the chemicals that are in our body, and just the simple acts that fuel those chemicals, and those stimulate and get us those reactions that we're looking for. So the awareness of that was the first thing, and to prompt those simple acts for us to practice. The second one I love was about the gratitude journal. I think, it's just about not only just the gratitude journal, it's also through my faith and whatever else. It's just being grateful for what you have, You don't have to be religious, but you're grateful to your God, you're grateful to nature, you're grateful to your staff, you're grateful to this. It's just being grateful for what you have. I think that was the second one. And the third one was, just wanting to make a difference, make a difference in somebody else's life, whether it's a family member, it's your client, it's your friends, whoever you come in contact with, you want to make a difference, and you want them to be in a better place after engaging with you. And I'd also like to round off by saying that, through FCSI, that we said, how we get connected as a big global family. And I want to acknowledge the likes of Greg and Tony and more recently Bill, who have, been inspirational and mentored me in my journey through FCSI. And then more recently, almost weekly or bi-weekly chats I have with Andrew about, business, about life, about FCSI. That's made me a better person and helped me also to do a better job as the chair of FCSI. So thank you, guys. And a very special thanks finally to Bill. I know it's 1:15 in the morning, and to Nick in Louisville, Kentucky, it's 3:15 in the morning. And that's commitment. And we're most grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario, for that summation there. Andrew, anything you wanted to add on there just as parting words?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say as a parting comment would be that inspiration can come from anywhere. Just be open to seeing it. And if you see it, don't ignore it. I think that's probably the most important for, if I can just leave everybody with something, be open to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Team, thank you very much. Remember, pay it forward, because people don't always remember what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel.